Welcome back to Marketing Connected. I'm your host, Rizwana Manjur, and this is Agency Agenda, a show that puts the mic in front of agency leaders, diving into how they navigate the ever-evolving advertising and communications landscape. We have in the studio with us today Eunice Tan, the partner, head of strategy, and group CEO of TSLA, the secret little agency, which she co-founded along with her partners for over 17 years ago. So she's going to be spilling the secrets on triple heading as a group CEO. Welcome into the studio.
Hi.
It's very nice to have you.
Yeah, likewise.
So she is also the group CEO of Anak and the head of strategy for Mother after TSLA entered a strategic partnership with the independent creative agency. And with that, we want to delve deeper into her job, her role, and how she's helping the agency agenda. So Eunice, tell us a little bit about what you do. You've got 3 different hats. You must be very busy, but break it down for us.
Sure. Well, I take care of a couple of babies, as I would love to say.
Your anaks.
Yes, my little anaks, essentially. Well, I started the agency together with 3, 4 other friends, right? And in blink of an eye, it's been like 17, almost 20 years. So my role as group CEO really is to, in very simple language, is really to make sure that everyone has, a safe space, an environment to express themselves, to thrive, and to be like their best creative selves. To break it down a bit more, I take care of the growth of each of our verticals, not just the creative growth, but obviously, kind of balancing that out with the commercial, and business growth as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, in my role, I have been a producer, I've been a suit, I've been a strategist.
Yes.
Lots of different things. But yeah, here I am, finally landed on this.
It keeps things exciting, right? When you have so many different kind of roles to juggle, so many types of clients. But I think before taking on the group CEO role, largely you were leading the strategy function, right? What's that been like? I think to me it seems like a very seamless move, because the best CEOs are very strategic in my mind, I feel. But what were some of the challenges that you faced going from strategy to CEO?
Yeah, I mean, 3 of my partners are creatives, right? One is a writer, the other is another writer, the third one is, very much like rooted in design. So then everything else was kind of like, me sort of like stepping in. But I really sort of found, a nice and true calling, I wanted to say, back in the day in strategy. The good thing about it is it does give you a bit of that macro view.
Yeah.
You're constantly thinking about the long game, right? With, how you're applying the work, the approach, the thinking to clients.
Yeah.
It's never just, to solve a brief. You're also trained to really think in frameworks as well. So it's been super helpful then applying that, sort of long view, that macro, big picture view, and also applying a bit of that framework thinking into like putting some structure, right, behind how we structure the business.
Yeah.
And also putting some structure behind some of the programs, right, that we have, whether it's, internship programs like HR, ops, culture, wellness, and
Yeah.
things like that as well.
Yeah. What's it like being the only strategist amongst 3 creative minds?
I actually think it's given me a lot of insight, right, into human observation and honing like an intuition, because the 3 partners, right, that I have who are creatives, they work in a very different way. They are fueled, very differently. They're inspired differently as well. They have a very different sort of creative language, if you will.
Yeah.
So I don't think I've ever felt like I was the odd one out, because many of us were friends to begin with. So there already inherently was, fortunately, a bit of that shorthand. But it's really helped me to like build human observation skills and intuition skills as well, to be able to know how to play to different people's styles and, strengths, weaknesses, and how to draw out or motivate, people differently. And they're all motivated very differently.
Yeah, so interesting. Now, I love TSLA, right? I feel like you guys do such amazing work. I know when I first started out at Marketing Interactive, you guys were doing some work for EDB as well. There was Strawberry Frog, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, so I followed your journey for a long time, and I am so proud that it's a Singapore first agency doing such amazing work. But how do you sort of stay bold amidst all of the pressure of commercial work, delivering just something that gets the job done, maybe doesn't raise that many eyebrows?
Okay, so this is a great question because I actually have like a very strong point of view, right, when it comes to the word bold and its associations, right, in our industry.
Yeah.
I think many a times, when you say like, oh, bold, like groundbreaking or like disruptive, etc., it's often linked to this idea, right, of very renegade creativity, right? Like very sort of like they're hijacking things, they're renegade, it's a flash in a pan, it's one off sort of thing. As a strategist as well, like people don't often associate bold, right, with say long-term brand building work.
Okay.
Right? Or with work that travels through the entire funnel, not just like gaining cultural attention or talkability, right? Or even hype, if you will, right? But work that sort of like journeys through and closes the loop, right? And links all the way, to acquisition and allows you to track the brand, allows you to track consumer behavior over time. Right?
Yeah.
And I've always maintained that it's really hard to be able to measure bonus, if you will, right?
Yeah.
If you're not on a somewhat protracted or longer term journey with a client.
Yeah.
If you're just hired to do like a campaign last 6 months, okay, great, you created a lot of hype and buzz. But in the long run, like how has the brand grown? Has the consumer grown with it? Like
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's really hard to be able to achieve like, that clarity, right, at the end of it as well. But I think, when we think about creating bold work, it really is not just doing like cool stuff for the sake of being cool or like trend jacking for the sake of it. It really is, let's take it all the way right down to channel planning. Let's think about amplification. Let's think about PR. Let's like challenge ourselves to like think out of our confines of our creative capabilities and make that journey along with the client. Like if we're able to shift the needle in the long run,
Yeah.
and have the brand like grow strength by strength, right? Like to me, that's bold.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important because lots of people will be like, oh, you only do bold stuff.
It's also about sustainable creativity, right? Like it's not about that one single flash in the pan and then you go back to the mundane. It's about consistently showing up as a brand that lives amidst culture, pushes the needle, dares to say the things that maybe don't want to be spoken about. And one of the things that you guys mentioned is that you always prioritize work before money, and you push global ROI driven clients to take on that hat as well, or that mandate as well. How do you push them to take a risk to be culturally provocative?
Yeah, we have a statement that we say, and this is something that I say to candidates that I interview. It's something that we say to people who walk through our doors as first-time joiners, right? It's also something that we say to clients that we meet for the first time, and also existing clients. We're here to do the best work of our careers, in whatever shape or form, that might be. We always tell our clients life is short, right? So if you have, a finite amount of time in this current position that you're in or this career trajectory that you're in, we would love to be able to do something with you that you're proud to put on your LinkedIn at the very least. Or for me, my barometer is if my mom, who doesn't care about advertising, doesn't know about advertising, right, like messages me on WhatsApp and goes like, oh, this is really cool. Did you guys do that? Actually, I've been circulating it on my WhatsApp groups. Like, I consider that like,
A
job
personal
done.
win and
A personal win. Because to me, that's culture, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of like, pushing culture as well. So I think aligning on the same ambition is important.
Yeah.
But we can't also sort of like live on hopes and dreams. Like clients need to feel supported that there really is a plan around this.
Yes.
I think, they need to be able to feel supported by feasibility checks. Like whatever that we're bringing to them, right, is well thought through. There's a channel plan, there's an amplification plan around it. It's layered with like BAU media, kind of touch point planning,
Yeah.
for example. It's layered with an acquisitions angle. It's layered with a PR lens to it.
Yeah.
What would make it earn its way into fame, right? And it's grounded in a real story or an interesting insight or a piece of research, for example, or an interesting statistic, right, that is happening in culture. And so when clients feel supported and you're not just there randomly throwing ideas at them and seeing what sticks, right, like I think there is a lot more reassurance, especially in this Asian client context, right? there's a lot more reassurance that, okay, this is a safe space that we have built together, agency and client,
Yeah.
to then explore this further. And that's also how we get a lot of the things we made, whether it's a perfume or a puffy bag by IKEA, stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that. I have that DBS. Was it DBS perfume?
Yeah,
Right?
the hot perfume. Yeah.
I love it. No, and thank you for sharing that. I feel that this is what a creative partnership means, right? That safe space to experiment, because too often that it becomes like an agency vendor client relationship, and that's when you're just sort of executing rather than creative
Yeah.
conceptualization, right? Pushing that needle. So I mean, kudos to you, Nick, and the whole team as well, because you guys have really pushed that agenda. So I want to talk a little bit about your specialized services like Anak and Purpose. It's got double P. Am I saying it right?
Yes.
It's Purpose.
So we just call it Purpose. It used to be called Present Purpose, but we shortened it. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So as group CEO, how do you ensure that these entities maintain their unique DNA while still feeling like the TSLA brand?
I think it boils down to a couple of things. The first is, understanding that giving each entity like room, right, to really sort of express themselves fully in the expertise that they are meant to be in. So, for example, Anart is really all about building brand worlds and creating like impactful brand transformations, right? For Purpose, it's all about experiences and advocacy. Purpose came about at a time where events and roadshows only had like popcorn and like candy floss and, promos. And, we thought like we needed programming, we needed to inject like interesting characters. And so giving each one free reign to play, but also ensuring that we're all binded by the same philosophy and the same sort of like internal culture, which is we're all here to do the best work of our careers. We want to have fun. We want to like make a decent living, and we want to create a safe space, right, for creativity to thrive. It also helps that our practice leads have been cultural ambassadors for the agency. Like there are people that for Anak, like Hani is one of the partners, so she lives and breathes the brand, for Purpose. Like Tracy has been, working with us for more than a decade. So she understands and she lives and breathes the brand as well. I think it's also all binded by this sort of idea of like, we do want to prove a point. We do want to show that, creativity from Asia is interesting. There is a point of view, and it's all kind of also binded by wanting to also have work manifest itself culturally in whatever shape or form, whether it's an experience or whether it's a brand.
So how do you protect TSLA's Singapore First identity while operating as a global sister to Mother in London and New York and Shanghai?
Like when we think about the Singaporean identity, right? Like we've worked on brand SG, and you mentioned EDP as well, right? So we crafted the Singapore brand, and a lot of that thinking, right, around how Singapore shows up in Asia and the world stage is very much reflected, right, in our relationship across the mother family as well. I think in the past, maybe people thought Singapore was like Asia and maybe a limitation. But today I see Singapore as a vantage point, really. So this idea of Singapore first, right? It is a point of view that is extremely global, but rooted, right, in very Asian slash Singaporean values in terms of like how we work and how we treat people. So I think, clients and also colleagues across the mother family, they appreciate the globalness of that point of view, but then they also appreciate the way in which we work, which is very Singaporean. We were joking about this like earlier, like we're very straightforward, we're very kind of like, efficient, we're reliable, we're safe, we're trusted. You tell a Singaporean to do something, they'll do it to the best of their abilities. No one's going to cheat you, and stuff like that. So I think there is that appreciation across the board. And this understanding that, when we're talking to TSLA across the mother family, right, there is a global perspective, but rooted in Asian intelligence.
Yeah.
So I actually don't see much of like a Western Asian sort of like dichotomy or difference today. It was definitely more prevalent in the past.
But there must have been some cultural influences when this partnership with Mother sort of came around, right? And that's absolutely normal when you have any sort of tie-up. There's a give and take. What would you say has changed in terms of how TSLA manages its talent compared to maybe the early days?
I think we're super fortunate. Well, firstly, I'm super fortunate and grateful, right? And I think my partners can also attest to this as well. We really found very uncanny doppelgangers, right, in Mother. So that base level was already sort of set, right? And it really came through when we worked together on global Nokia project and we won that pitch together. And that was like maybe 8, 10 years ago. And so we thought like, wow, the way we approach things and the way we work, right, it's quite uncannily similar. So that's nice. In terms of like the kind of give and take, right, and how we manage talent, coming from like, four people in their early 20s starting up an agency, right, we never had much of like benchmark, so to speak. Like, it's not like someone you have a mentor and then they teach you how to like be more creative or be more
You learn on
strategic,
the go.
like you learn on the go,
Yeah.
right? And so I think when we started participating in like, larger projects and working side by side with the team at Mother, we realized that, hey, okay, there are standards that we aspire to. We've always really admired them. And at the same time, there was also a bit of validation like, okay, you're not thinking about all of these things in a vacuum. These other people from these like, random cities also feel like you have a point of view as well.
Right.
Okay, so that's good, right? But then I think we learned a lot, right, from how they groomed and, mentored people. Being like a small company, we didn't really have a lot of guidance on like HR programs, coaching, and things like
Yeah.
that. And we realized quite quickly that a lot of their second gen leadership were actually people that have been on the journey with Mother for over a decade. And they really had a heart for the agency. I think that started to shape how we thought about hiring people, grooming people, mentoring people as well. Started to shape a lot of how we thought about legacy as well. 'Cause
Yeah.
what happens after like, I don't know, I'm 60 years old.
Yeah.
Then how,
Yeah.
So it started to give us, a lot of early sort of inklings on, okay, we need to be able to identify people that also have a heart for the agency. And maybe their capabilities are not quite there yet. Maybe they're still a little bit shy and introverted. Maybe they are not like, great at public speaking or presentation. But what are the things that we should prioritize and what should matter most? And then
Yeah.
the things that can be taught can be, taught later on.
Yeah,
like,
skill versus
through-
will, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. And that was going to be my follow-up question on what's the next gen of TSLA secret keepers? What do they look like, right? Because you guys have, the founders have such a strong personality and you are so well known in the industry, but who's next?
We have definitely a group of people that we fully trust and love, right? And fortunately, they've also been with us, right, since actually some of them were like employee number 2 or like intern number 1. And like for me, like I love stories like that because it's just very nice to know that you've journeyed such a long way, right, with these group of people.
Yeah.
And some of them have obviously joined the fold like later on as well. What's been interesting is that we often encourage like lateral moves across the agency. So we've had people who were business people, they later became talent people, and then they later became like ops and like general, like management people. There were people who were started off as intern, actually was art director, and then turned out actually I'm better at copy than art, and then now is a very trusted like CD within
Right.
the team. So we made very clear sort of decisions, right, to recognize and identify this team that we call like our management table, that sits around our management table, right? And we started creating occasions, cadences, right, to loop them into like, how we're thinking. Because I think when you're in a founder-driven company, it's really hard sometimes to try to second guess or know what's in like your founders' minds
Yeah.
as well. So having them along the journey, they kind of understand. And then now they are more client facing than us, truly. We took a lot of care and steps, right, to introduce them to clients early. And for some of our longer standing clients from DBS all the way to like Brand SG, like they've been like familiar faces along the way. Yeah. And then we just let them sort of like,
And that's
run
so
the
nice,
show.
right? To see people that have gone through all of the changes, all of the ups and downs with you now come out on top and kind of fly that TSLA flag high for you. And I mean, it must be very precious to see that as well.
It's extremely precious. I I cannot express how like grateful I think we are.
Yeah.
It's really hard in this industry.
Yeah.
There's
Absolutely.
a high turnover rate. And, I think it's also very gratifying, right, to see people kind of come into their work. And I firmly maintain, right, like, in Asia, when you tell your parents, like, hi, I'm going to be a founder or like entrepreneur, right, like 15, 20 years ago, it's like, yeah, you probably did badly in school. Let's be real, right?
Yeah.
And then your relatives at around Chinese New Year, the reunion table will be like, oh, so your A-level results or your university.
Yeah.
And then you layer that on with, oh, I'm in design, I'm in advertising, I'm in creative, I'm a writer. It's like, ooh, okay. So that's also, a different hurdle.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that we have around management table, right? Like they were just kids when they started in this industry. And a lot of them didn't really know what, they could excel in or what was their niche, right? What was their calling. And so to be able to see people kind of make a living from this and realize along the way, oh, I like design, but actually I'm a much better writer. And now I can lead like a team of creatives, right?
Yeah.
It's really, really gratifying.
Amazing. Well, my final question to you. So what's going to be on your agency agenda at TSLA this year?
I think number one, it's been a year of, well, it's been a season. Let's not just call it a year. It's been a season of a lot of flux in the industry, as we know. So the first priority, and it has always been a priority of ours, right, is to continue to invest, in talent. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of talent out there. I still believe that, this region has really, really exciting talent, from creators to like strategic thinkers to, all sorts, right? To producers, everything, right? There's an amazing amount of talent out there. We want to be able to hold on to the ones that we feel are dear to us. We want to empower people. We want to be able to invite people into the fold and give them a safe space to discover what they can be. That's super important to us. It's important to our longevity as well. The second is investments in production. And I know a lot of people talk about this AI and like, it's a huge prevalent topic right now, but it's a very real topic. And I think we're making a lot of investments into smarter ways and more efficient ways to produce and execute. And that's going to be really exciting as well because, yeah, we're just experimenting every day. We're looking at potentially building out our in-house studio capabilities. And I can't wait for that to kind of come into more fruition.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I suppose, the third, honestly, is I know it sounds really basic, but it is really important to just have fun. And okay, it might not be the most like commercially CEO, like intellectual answer, but I feel like it served our agency really well. Like every time we found ourselves not having fun, it's always not been great commercially or creatively. So I just want to, create an environment where people feel safe and they feel like they can have fun. Yeah, do the best they can, the best work of their careers. Yeah.
Amazing. And thank you so much for sharing some of your secrets to TSLA and its success. Really appreciate you being here. Well, and to all of you out there, fear not, even though this interview with Eunice Tan of TSLA is over, we've got tons of other episodes that you can catch on our Marketing Connected channel and on YouTube. Be sure to follow us on Marketing Interactive's social media pages, on Telegram, Instagram, and LinkedIn to get alerts on new podcast episodes. Once again, thank you for tuning in to Marketing Connected, brought to you by Marketing Interactive. Take care. Bye.